Renowned endocrinologist and metabolic expert Robert Lustig made a striking statement. The main reason you can't lose excess weight is insulin resistance. Many people believe insulin only rises because of sugar or fast food, but in reality, this condition is often a consequence of damaged mitochondria. And the key to fixing it isn't extreme dieting. It's a set of simple, effective strategies.
Absolutely. Insulin's where the action is. Insulin is the bad guy in the story. And when you understand insulin and insulin resistance, you understand all of these chronic metabolic diseases. But I will tell you that insulin resistance is actually downstream of something even more important that we will talk about called mitochondrial dysfunction. So mitochondrial dysfunction is where, all of these diseases conglomerate. All of the diseases that we are talking about in this thing called metabolic syndrome. So type 2 diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia, cardiovascular disease, cancer, dementia, fatty liver disease, polycystic ovarian disease. The diseases that affect 75% of the population and cost 75% of today's healthcare dollars are all the diseases of mitochondria. And when your mitochondria don't work, you get insulin resistance.
Damaged mitochondria are one of the deeper causes of insulin resistance because they determine whether a cell can actually use glucose and fat. When mitochondria function poorly due to excess sugar, ultra-processed food, chronic inflammation, and ages, the cell physically loses its ability to burn fuel efficiently. Glucose builds up inside the cell, fatty acids aren't oxidized, and the cell begins to push back against insulin as a protective response to energy overload. In this context, insulin resistance isn't a malfunction, it's an emergency safety mechanism. The worse the mitochondria perform, the more aggressively the body blocks incoming energy, even when there's plenty of it available. That's why restoring insulin sensitivity doesn't start with cutting calories, but with repairing mitochondrial health. Only then do cells once again want to accept energy and use it, instead of hiding from it.
There are a lot of things that can damage the mitochondria. Okay? Poor diet in general will damage the mitochondria because mitochondria are made of fats, but they're made of specific fats. And if you don't get enough of those specific fats in your diet, essential fatty acids in your diet, you can't make good mitochondria and they go bad easily, in which case you have mitochondrial dysfunction because you didn't eat the right fats. There are 7 classes of fats in our diet, 7. And some of them will save your life and some of them will kill you. Okay, there's a big spectrum all the way from one end to the other. Let's take them in order so that people can understand what they are and how they work and where do you find them. So the most important and the most valuable fatty acid is omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3s are heart healthy, they are anti-inflammatory, they are anti-Alzheimer's, because they contribute to neuronal structure and function. And it has been shown that when you are omega-3 deficient, you get multiple diseases, including cardiovascular disease and depression. And omega-3s are very sparse in our diet. We don't get enough.
There are several meaningful sources of omega-3, but the clear leaders are fatty ocean fish, sardines, mackerel, herring, salmon, and anchovies. For example, just 100 to 120 grams of sardines or mackerel provide roughly 2 grams of EPA and DHA, already a full daily dose for metabolic health. Herring and salmon fall into the same range. Plant sources, flaxseed, chia seeds, walnuts, and leafy greens contain also fatty acids, but it can barely provide you with only 5% of daily dose. Because of that, they work best as a supplement, not a foundation. To get the equivalent of 1 to 2 grams of from plants alone, you'd need unrealistically large amounts. That's why eating fatty fish regularly, 2 to 4 times a week, or about 100 to 150 grams every other day, is the simplest and most effective way to support mitochondrial health, reduce insulin resistance, and create the conditions for steady, sustainable fat burning.
Number 2, monounsaturated fatty acids, oleic acid found in olive oil. Now, this is a very good fatty acid. And the reason it's very good fatty acid is because it is the endogenous ligand. Oleic acid is the endogenous ligand for a receptor in your liver called PPAR alpha, peroxisome proliferation activator receptor alpha. And this is the fuel gauge on the liver cell, basically telling the liver to work more efficiently and work better. And so it has a lot to do with energy dynamics. And so when you are low in PPAR alpha, you don't burn energy as well. It has an effect on mitochondria. So olive oil is a good a good fatty acid.
Olive oil, especially extra virgin, supports mitochondrial health not as a fuel, but as a protective factor. It's rich in monounsaturated fats and polyphenols that reduce oxidative stress and protect mitochondrial membranes from damage. Unlike industrial seed oils, olive oil doesn't overload cells with unstable fats or disrupt the energy chain. Its polyphenols improve insulin sensitivity, lower inflammation, and create conditions where mitochondria burn fat and produce energy more efficiently. That's why olive oil acts as a metabolic stabilizer. It doesn't trigger ketosis directly, but it creates an environment where ketones and fat fuel can be used by cells smoothly and efficiently. However, despite the popular myth that olive oil makes cooking methods like frying or baking healthier, Robert Lustig strongly warns against heating olive oil to high temperatures.
The only problem with olive oil is that the bond, the double bond that caused it to be monounsaturated, because that's what we referred to when we talked about unsaturated, is the double bonds in the fatty acid, which is a long chain of carbons. Okay, there are two kinds of fatty acids. There's cis fatty acids and there are trans fatty acids. You want cis fatty acids. And the reason is because we don't have the enzyme to break a trans double bond. Olive oil is cis fatty acid. That's good. But if you heat an olive oil, if you heat oleic acid past its smoking point, which is relatively low for olive oil, 310 degrees Fahrenheit, 165 degrees centigrade, okay, which is easy to do in a saute pan. What you do is you put enough heat across, enough energy across that double bond that it will actually flip. And now you have created a trans fatty acid right in your skillet. And that is poison.
Healthy fats support mitochondrial health and help reduce insulin resistance by providing cells with steady fuel without sharp hormonal spikes. They lower inflammation, improve cell membrane function, and allow mitochondria to burn energy efficiently. When cells can use fat properly, the demand for insulin drops and metabolism gradually returns to normal function.